Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to the Thursday, October 3rd, 2024 Public Works Committee meeting. First call of business, we have roll call, and with us we have Council Member Althauser and Council Member Jefferson, as well as myself, Council Member Swarthout. First thing, we have approval of the minutes from the August 22nd, 2024 meeting and the September 5th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we approve some minutes. And now let's jump into, I forgot, we don't need to change this to the agenda, do we? Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into our first topic, and it's the Small Works contract with Sarah Electric for the City of Tumwater Fleet EV Charging Stations project. All right.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Melissa.
Because I had two related items, I kind of combined them into one presentation with two recommended actions at the end. So good morning, council members. Can everyone see my screen all right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I've combined these two items. This is the interagency agreement with Department of Commerce for the Washington Electric Vehicle Charging Program and the Small Works contract with Sarah Electric for fleet EV charging. Some background first. These items are related to electric vehicle charging for the city fleet. Advancing fleet electrification is supported by several city policies and the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, which City Council has accepted. Specifically, the TCMP Action T 3.10 for zero emission fleets, and our city purchasing policies have a requirement to replace fossil fuel vehicles with EVs and hybrids, with some exceptions for when things are really too expensive, related to heavy and medium duty vehicles. Additionally, there's a section of RCW that sets out a requirement for local governments to satisfy their fuel usage of their fleets with electricity and biofuel. So this helps support that as well. In 2023, the Green Team of Tumwater completed a fleet electrification assessment using the Electrification Coalition's open source DRIVE tool, or DRVE tool. That assessment found that up to 69% of our municipal fleet is viable to be electrified by 2030, and 48% of our police fleet is likewise. The remaining 31% of our non-police fleet that remains fossil fueled is largely older, non-supported vehicles that run on gas that just aren't slated for replacement that we're holding on to, as well as some heavier equipment that may not have electric alternatives yet, and that's kind of mostly the EV with grant support. So if we could get federal or state funding for medium or heavy duty vehicles that are just a lot more expensive as electric, that's the EV with grant support of that pie chart there. For police, the potential to achieve 48% electrified fleet banks heavily on the production of the Chevy Blazer EV PPV, the first fully electric pursuit rated police vehicle. Many police departments in the U.S. have purchased EVs that aren't pursuit rated or crash rated for police use, including past places where I've worked. I worked at a jurisdiction in Florida, and we bought 13 Teslas for our police, mostly for detectives and officers. But we want to make sure in Tumwater that if we are going EV with the police vehicles, that we want to make sure that they meet all of their operational and safety needs.
Alyssa, back on that pie chart. So we've got EV, hybrid, and the top one, the acronym on that one, the 22%. What is that again?
Internal combustion engine. Sorry. ICE.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's.
Thank you. I use that acronym like everyone knows what it is, and I'm sorry. I always forget that.
That's all right, though. It can be other things too, but thank you.
It could also be ice for our drinks. Tumwater, yes, based on fleet electrification forecasts, the city could reduce our gasoline consumption by more than 70% by 2030, which is really important because the largest portion of our kind of post-PSC green power net emissions that are left are our fleet. So this is our biggest opportunity for improvement for operational net emissions decreases. The electrification assessment also forecasts us for our need for chargers to support those vehicles in the years in which and the locations in which we'll need those. So here's a little table for the number of new level 2 chargers and new fast chargers that we would need at different locations to meet those needs and those forecasted vehicle replacements. Based on those findings, the city applied for a Department of Commerce grant opportunity and was awarded $78,000 in grant funding. The estimated remaining cost of the project would be funded by city dollars initially, but then mostly reimbursed with direct pay from the IRS. The staff report that you all got in this packet referred to a PSC incentive as being that helpful bit for the remaining cost. We've since learned that they've changed requirements and that we would need to put in new service and new meters to all the locations, which the cost of changing that to the project, which isn't necessary for the actual operation, exceeds the incentive. So we're taking a different path and going forward with the IRS direct pay money to make up some of that difference, which will be have like $8,000 that's left for city funding to get all of these chargers. The state funding for this is Climate Commitment Act funded, and the direct pay would be funded by the Federal Inflation Reduction Act. Two very important state and federal laws really helping to provide important financial resources for local governments like ours to address climate change. Now down to the details of the project. The grant will fund a small works contract with Sarah Electric to install a total of 10 new level 2 EV charging stations for fleet use across 5 different facilities, 5 counting the police station as a separate facility from City Hall because they have a secure parking area. We would also be stubbing out an additional 3 for future installations at the police station. So that would be running the conduit and having panel space, but not installing the charging station quite yet. These 10 charging stations are what's forecasted to be needed for the next 2 years of fleet electrification progress. Sarah Electric was selected out of a competitive solicitation process to carry out the installation related to this grant.
Alyssa, can
Yes.
you return to the previous slide, please?
Happily.
Okay, for the Old Town Center, exactly where will that charger be located? Because parking is just so limited. And it's always full when I walk by there in the mornings for our seniors. So where will we put that?
We'll put it on, if you're facing Old Town Center, on the left-hand side parking lot, the one that's shared with the daycare. That's where we and the contractors have decided that would be the best location. For that location, it's especially difficult to install EV charging because there's, well, a giant slope. There's a lot of concrete. It's mostly all concrete. So that's actually one of our more expensive sites to put it because we have to do so much boring and repairing of concrete and asphalt for that area.
Thank you.
So for this grant, we had to, before we got the grant agreement, contact and consult all the tribes in our area. So they have been contacted, consulted, we got some responses, and we gave information back because there will be ground disturbance with this project. We also went through the DAP review for all sites. 25% of all labor for the construction of this will be performed by apprentices, and the EV chargers are all ENERGY STAR certified. There's a lot of requirements that we need to meet for the grant, and the apprentice labor and the ENERGY STAR are some of those. So then I have 2 recommended actions, one for each item, starting with place the interlocal agreement with the Washington Department of Commerce for Washington Electric Vehicle Charging Program on the October 15th City Council consent calendar with the recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign. And then a second action for placing the small works contract with Sarah Electric for fleet EV charging on the same City Council consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign. And I'm happy to take any questions and also throw the actions back up there if that's helpful. Thank you.
All right, do we have questions for Alyssa? Okay. No? Not yet. I can't see anybody. So let's see. So I did have a question. I was curious. So these are the level 2 chargers, and we have recommendations for the number of fast chargers that we will need in the future, correct? Is that what the—
Yes.
I was writing that down. So what's the ETN? That's hard to guess on those, right? Because I was just curious about the availability and what's the plan, the ETN those.
Yeah, so for the fast chargers, they're already built into the design work for the operations facility. And so we will have that when that facility is opened. We've already incorporated all of the charging needs into that design process. The other location that would need the fast chargers is police. And the first thing that we're going to do to get us towards that is install these chargers to have them available and have the stub outs, but then also when the Blazer EV PPV is out, pilot one of those vehicles to make sure that it meets all of our officers' needs and desires operationally. And then if that ends up being something that is supported by the police department and the officers, then we'll move forward with additional charging. A fast charger, in my experience, costs at least $300,000 to install. So we don't want to purchase that and install that before we know for sure that the vehicles will meet our operational needs for police.
It's quite expensive.
Yeah,
and
very
then-
expensive.
And then to install those, as far as having access to them, because currently we have some in our parking lot that the public can access. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what about the ones that go to like to the fire station and up there? Will the public
Those-
still be able to access those as well?
These are intended for fleet use to meet our fleet needs. We'll have separate projects for expanding public EV charging, but especially with like the fire department, for instance, we don't want to have those charging stations be blocked and keep it so that the vehicles aren't ready for operation at all times. So it's important to kind of keep those uses separate. But we will be expanding public EV charging as well, and those will be two different things.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions for Alyssa? So we have two recommended actions in front of us, so we can take them together or separately. How do we want to do them together here, everyone? Is that okay, Karen? No. Can't see
You can
anybody,
do a
so-
motion for both.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to make a motion we have a motion before us to place the interlocal agreement with the Washington Department of Commerce for the Washington Electric Vehicle Charging Program on the October 15th, 2024 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign, and place the small works contract with SAR Electric for fleet EV charging on the October 15th, 2024 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign. Do I have a motion?
Are you making the motion, or are you asking if we're making the motion?
I can, sorry, I've been needing more coffee this morning, Michael. I can make the motion, so.
Okay, I'll second your motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Alyssa. All right, moving right along, trying to get back to my agenda. So next up, we have the acquisition of the Reichtel and Langton properties for the Percival Creek, here we go, Fish Passage Barrier Removal Project. So I can't wait till we're done with this. Thank you, Meredith, for the hardest word to say. So,
I was gonna say
All
we
right,
could let
so
a Thursday
we
Public
have
Works Committee.
Dan and Meredith up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was gonna say we could let a Thursday Public Works Committee meeting go without having to say the words fish passage.
Fish.
Now y'all have me doing it. This is a fairly straightforward ask. You've heard about this project a number of times before. So in an effort not to steal literally any of Meredith's presentation in the 12 words I would say about it, I'm just going to turn it over to her. Meredith, go for it.
Thanks, Dan. I promise all, we are almost done with this project. We will not have to keep saying fish passage until the next fish passage project, but that's a separate thing. I'm here this morning to talk a little bit about acquisition for this project. Because I think I've come to you guys so often, this is going to be a pretty quick presentation, but feel free to stop me at any time if you've got some questions. A little bit of a project overview again. This is a project down on Sap Road, right, just kind of south of the Sap Road Park property. We're looking at realigning the stream, replacing the current undersized culvert with a 19-foot open box culvert to create it a lot more fish friendly. We're also doing some habitat work. In addition, we're getting some transportation and pedestrian improvements by opening up those lanes to their full 11 feet, adding bike lanes and sidewalks as part of this property. Because we're doing all of this work and we're expanding the size of the roadway footprint a little bit, we do have to do some right-of-way work, and the city has been working with Tier Right-of-Way Services in order to complete this work. There are two property owners we've been working with. Miss Langton's property, which we are looking at acquiring part of that property. We're going to be putting in a retaining wall as part of this work, and so we need some of that footage, about 3,600 square feet of that, as well as a temporary construction easement on part of her property. In reality, this is just to allow equipment to get down to be able to do the work in the stream, setting up the culvert, and then we'll leave it back and replace all of the area as it has been found. In total, this kind of acquisition, as well as temporary easement that we're placing on part of this property, will cost the city about $24,800. The second property that we've been working with is the Reichdahl property. We just need a temporary construction easement with them for a little bit of a small piece of their property. In total, we're also helping to pay for some of the trees that are going to be removed and then replaced as part of this project. And so in total, we're looking at about $9,250 for that work with them. All in, this is about $34,050 worth of right-of-way work due to the number of grant funds we have for this project, including Protect funding out of WashDOT. We do have about $100,000 allocated for right-of-way work, and so this will be coming out of that funding. And so that's already taken care of from a grant perspective and won't require the city or any of its utility departments to pay for this work. I know that was all super quick. I'm happy to take any questions, and I'm happy to put the ask up as well for Dan to provide a staff recommendation if that's the next step for this.
Yes,
It
just,
is.
yes. So has a contractor been selected yet? And is it someone that you're familiar with working with? How does that work?
Sure. So Dawn Carney with the Transportation Engineering Department, and a couple other folks down there are working really hard on getting the project and the plans and everything needed to be able to send the project out to bid for us to hire a construction team to be able to do the work. We plan on doing that, maybe in November. We're trying to work around some of the holidays that are coming up at the end of the year, but our goal is to get this out to advertisement and bid by the end of the year to be able to hire the lowest responsible bidder who's be able to do this kind of work. I know there are a number of organizations and companies within the region that do a lot of this type of work, since there has been so much of this effort going on, especially with places like Thurston County doing a lot of work. And so we feel pretty confident about the pool that we'll be able to get, but we have not hired a contractor yet. We'll come back to Public Works Committee, hopefully one last time, with a request to advertise the project and then award it to the lowest responsible bidder.
Thank you, Meredith.
Michael, do you have questions?
Okay, well,
Pretty simple.
no more questions. Go ahead, Councilman.
I did have some questions myself. I can't see, so I'm sorry. On one of the graphs or one of the slides you showed, looks like we're looking at like 5 inches to the bike path or something, and 11 inches is. So I wasn't sure if that was feet or inches, because what's currently there is, yeah. I don't think we have anything there right now.
It should be feet.
Okay,
So,
all right. Okay.
right, currently going over the culvert is, I think, barely even a shoulder. We've got some of the lines on the side even kind of falling off the edge. And so we're installing 11-foot lanes, I think 5-foot sidewalk and 6-foot bike lanes on either side of that property to make it much more friendly to access for anybody in all types of transportation that they're using to get across that area.
Okay. It's such a narrow area, so I was just curious. Have we seen like the design plan that is what the road's actually going to look like as far when it goes over that? I'm sure we have over the time, but it wasn't in this. I can see where the property part was, but do we have a design concept yet?
Yeah, see if I can pull that up super quick. If not, I'm also happy to
Yeah, no worries. I was just curious. Yeah, just curious what it was planned to look. Such a narrow area, and I realize the engineers are magicians and they'll make this work, but it's just, yeah, just curious how it's all going to factor into that little narrow space there. So, but it's going to be Sure, amazing. How about Dan?
Yeah, we'll send a copy of that design page just to the committee and so you can take a look at that. But yeah, we're getting fairly close to getting this thing going and really excited about it. It's been a long journey and there's been a lot of work put into it from transportation engineering folks, and Meredith has done an amazing job getting us funding for this and overseeing the overall project. And yeah, so next year is going to be a fun year. Get this going and then start work on the second one down there on Somerset Hill Drive. We're gonna, so the staff recommendation for this is to place the offer letters for the Reichdahl and Langdon properties on the October 15th, 24 city council calendar to acquire the right of way needed to complete this Percival Creek Fish Passage Burial project, with recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
So I don't have to restate this. Would someone like to say so moved?
So moved. I'll make the motion as presented.
Thank you.
I second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, good work there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'm trying to get back to my thing here. All right. So it looks like that we have reached, this is a fast one, reached the end of our agenda today. Do we have anything else that we need to discuss or anything else? No? All right. So with that, I will call the Thursday, October 3rd, 2024 Public Works meeting adjourned. Everyone go out there and enjoy the sunshine. Thanks.